The biggest money mistake I ever made wasn't spending too much. It wasn't investing too little. It wasn't going into debt. It was believing that making more money would solve my financial stress. And honestly, maybe you've believed that too, because that's what we're taught. Work harder, earn more, upgrade your life, repeat. It sounds logical. After all, if money solves problems, then more money should solve even more of them. But eventually I discovered something that completely changed the way I think about wealth. And the truth had nothing to do with earning more money. I didn't realize that at the time. Like most people, I thought financial progress was simple. More income meant I was moving forward. A bigger paycheck meant I was getting closer to freedom. And if life still felt stressful, the answer seemed obvious. Earn more. I wasn't trying to become rich. I wasn't chasing private jets or luxury yachts. I just wanted what most people want. Less stress, more security, more financial breathing room. So whenever I imagined a better financial future, it always looked the same. A nicer place to live, a newer car, fewer money worries, a little more comfort, and on the surface, that seems completely reasonable. But looking back now, that belief became my biggest money mistake. Because the more I chased financial success, the more I started noticing something that didn't make sense. Over time, I started noticing things that didn't fit the story I'd been told. People were earning more money than ever before, getting raises, moving into bigger homes, driving nicer cars, upgrading their lifestyles, yet many of them still seemed stressed about money. They still worried about bills. They still felt trapped by their monthly expenses. They still talked about needing the next raise before they could finally relax. And honestly, I saw some of that in myself too. I remember getting one of the biggest raises of my career. I thought this was it. Finally, some financial breathing room, but within a year, I'd upgraded parts of my life, spent a little more here, added a little more there. Nothing extreme, nothing irresponsible, just small lifestyle upgrades that felt completely reasonable. And somehow, despite earning more, I didn't feel much different financially. The finish line had moved again. Think about how often that happens. Someone gets a raise, they upgrade apartments, finance a newer vehicle, add a few streaming services, maybe take on a larger mortgage. 6 months later, the raise is gone. The income increased, but the freedom didn't. And before long, the breathing room I thought I was creating never seemed to last. But what really caught my attention was something else. Some of the calmest people I knew weren't the highest earners. They weren't driving luxury cars. They weren't constantly upgrading their lifestyles. Yet they seemed far less stressed about money than people earning twice as much. That's when I started asking myself a question I had never seriously considered before. If more money creates freedom, why do so many people with more money still feel financially trapped? The answer wasn't what I expected. For years, I thought income was the problem, but eventually I realized something that changed the way I looked at money forever. A lot of money problems aren't actually income problems. They're lifestyle problems disguised as income problems. That doesn't mean income doesn't matter. Of course it does. Earning more can absolutely improve your life, but somewhere along the way, I realized something important. Every time income increased, lifestyle often increased right alongside it. The bigger paycheck wasn't creating freedom. It was creating a bigger version of the same situation, a nicer place to live, a newer car, more subscriptions, more monthly obligations, more things that needed to be maintained, more money flowing back out the door. And because those expenses slowly became normal, it never felt like lifestyle inflation. It just felt like life. Let me ask you a question. If your income doubled tomorrow, would you actually become financially free? Or would your lifestyle simply expand until it consumed the extra money? That's the trap. Not because people are irresponsible, but because human beings adapt incredibly quickly. The things we once dreamed about eventually become things we expect, and expectations are expensive. That's when I realized the people with the most financial freedom weren't always the people earning the most. They were often the people who had created the most financial breathing room, the people whose lifestyle consumed less of what they earned, the people who had margin, the people who had options, the people who could handle unexpected problems without panic, the people who could sleep peacefully at night because they weren't carrying the weight of an endlessly expanding lifestyle. For the first time, I stopped asking, how can I make more money? And started asking, how much money do I actually need? That question changed everything. Once I understood that, the way I viewed money started to change. I stopped seeing financial success as a lifestyle and started seeing it as freedom. For years, I thought success looked like visible upgrades, a nicer home, a newer car, more expensive things, a lifestyle that looked successful from the outside. But gradually, I became more interested in something else. Financial breathing room, flexibility, options, peace of mind. I started realizing that some of the most valuable things money can buy aren't things at all. They're choices. The ability to handle an emergency without panic. The ability to walk away from a bad job if necessary. The ability to say no to something that doesn't align with your values. The ability to take a different path if life suddenly changes. The ability to sleep at night without constantly worrying about the next bill. And the more I focused on creating that kind of freedom, the less interested I became in chasing appearances. Because looking successful and feeling financially secure are not always the same thing. One is designed to impress other people. The other quietly improves your own life. That's when my definition of wealth changed. Wealth wasn't having the most. Wealth was needing less. Wealth wasn't about constantly upgrading my lifestyle. It was about creating enough margin that money became a tool instead of a source of pressure. For the first time, financial freedom felt achievable. Not because I suddenly earned an extraordinary amount of money, but because I finally understood what I was actually chasing. As I continued learning, I started noticing something else. A lot of financial content seemed focused on one of two extremes. On one side, there were promises of getting rich quickly, more income, more hustle, more status, more consumption. On the other side, there was highly technical financial advice that often felt overwhelming for the average person. Meanwhile, most people were asking a much simpler question. How do I stop feeling stressed about money? That's the question I cared about too, because most people don't need a private jet. Most people don't need a 7-figure portfolio tomorrow. Most people don't need a luxury lifestyle. They just want breathing room. They want to feel secure. They want to stop worrying every time an unexpected expense shows up. They want more control over their future. And that's ultimately where Frugal Fred came from. The name isn't about being cheap. It isn't about depriving yourself. And it isn't about never enjoying your money. It's about being intentional. It's about spending on what truly matters and letting go of what doesn't. It's about creating enough financial breathing room that money becomes a tool instead of a source of pressure. Because the biggest lesson I learned wasn't how to make more money. It was understanding what money was actually supposed to do. Money should create freedom, not stress, not endless upgrading, not constant pressure to keep up. Freedom. And that's the mission of this channel, to help people reduce financial pressure, create more financial breathing room, and build wealth without wasting money. Not by chasing status, but by creating margin. Because financial freedom isn't built by earning more and more forever. It's built by creating more and more breathing room. Because if there's one thing I hope you take away from this video, it's this. Real wealth is not having the most. Real wealth is needing the least. Because when you need less, you gain freedom. And that lesson is what created Frugal Fred. If that message resonates with you, subscribe and join me as we continue building wealth without wasting money.